Good morning, good afternoon, good night, YouTube guys. I've got my new stick here. That's over this way. All right, so I got this new rotating stick. This is Corey's idea. It must work better with taller people, but we're gonna give it a shot. Bart at High Tech Motorsport, Elk River, Minnesota, 763-712-9088. I've got Bill behind me.
Hello.
Yeah, Bill's excited about being a superstar, but not so much. All right, we're going to go over today. We're doing an LS1 415 cubic inch motor, supercharged, big crazy thing. It'll be making 800 plus horsepower. It's got to run every day on pump gas. But one thing we do all the time here is we do custom camshafts with some of the really aggressive lobes from comp cams. And you have to work with your spring pressures and make sure that you've got enough valve spring to make all this stuff work. We see a lot of flat tappet cams going bad these days. Because of the oils, the roller stuff is all we ever do anymore. Today we've got a set of dual valve springs going to a set of ported up LS3 cylinder heads. They're going on top of this 415. And we're going to show you how to check the installed height with a valve. And then by using a spring checker, you can check the open and the seat pressure on your valves to make sure you don't float the valves or snap the end of the tips off, or go into coil bind. All those things are bad. Bad? Bad. Bill says bad. All right, so here we go. Bill, take it over. I'm just going to try to run this little stick deal.
All right. So essentially we're starting with a new set of 823 casting LS cylinder heads. We got the valve job has been done, and we got new valves. So we have to check our installed height in order, like Bart was going over, to measure our spring pressures. So you can see here, I already have my height mic installed on this particular exhaust valve here. Went through and checked them all, make sure they're all the same, make sure that the valve seats are all cut to the same depth, and they were, so we're good.
So those checkers like that, they're like 40 bucks. Everybody that's going to actually work on a motor and do their thing, some of these high performance type applications with turbo superchargers, big high lift cams, aggressive lobes, put the 40 bucks into it so you knew what's going on, or find yourself a shop like High Tech Motorsport.
That's right.
And Bill. Yeah. Look at this thing move back and forth. Woo! Shit, that thing doesn't work.
You like your good.
I'm doing the best I can.
All right. So I have my spring seat / locator already underneath the height gauge.
Okay. See that? Good.
All right. And if you can see the number, it looks like we got 1/800 installed height.
All right. So it's a 1.800 inch installed height. What he's got going, put the retainer on the top with the locks on it. And so then what he does, he takes one of our springs, which is right there.
That's one of our dual springs with the retainer.
Okay.
So then we'll come over. We got our height gauge and our spring scale. Since this is a dual spring, we have to measure the spring pressure with the retainer on top of it, because it has a little ledge here that also applies pressure to the inner spring, and if we just clamped it down, we wouldn't get a correct reading. So we know our installed height is 1/800. 1/800 plus the retainer thickness is 120 thou. So we have a 192 installed height. Well, as far as the height gauge is concerned here, it's going to be 1.92.
Okay, so this little intercom deal here has a scale on the right hand side. It has to be zeroed out when you start checking it, then you get your 1.92. Then if you look on the bottom here, when he reaches 1.92, it gives you how many pounds of pressure.
Can you see that on your camera?
I don't know. Let's see. I probably screwed that up big time.
130 pounds.
I can go this way. There we go. Look at that. Okay, so that's 130 pounds on the seat. We're running a big blower combination, a real aggressive camshaft with this. Oh, I can run the button up and down. I'll be damned. Okay, so 130 on the seat. That's without shim. And now he's going to crank it down because I think this cam is what, 630?
610 lift.
610 lift.
So 1.31 is our open height.
Okay, so he cranks it down. Watch that sliding scale right there when he hits 1.131, if you can see it. I hope you can see it.
There we go.
Okay, so he's at 131 now, slightly off. Now you can see the number is 364 foot-pounds. Feet-pounds?
Well, yeah.
Pounds.
Pounds.
Pounds of pressure.
Just pounds.
So that's when it's completely open. The idea is to keep the spring from either going into coil bind. Now he's going to go to coil bind to see how much room we have to run, because that's a little light for what we set our stuff up at. We're going to want to be up around 160, 170 on the seat, and 400 open.
Right.
You got to see where you can go into coil bind. So we know we're at 1.310. Now he's going to tighten it down until the spring goes into coil bind.
And you'll be able to see that on the scale. You'll see a sudden spike on the scale.
Yep. All of a sudden it'll go like...
And I'll also pretty much feel it in my hand here. And right there.
Okay,
see that
so
big
there you
spike? You know, it's a couple thousandths of an inch, and it spikes 100 pounds there. So back it off a little bit. Call it right there. So we have
1.185, 180.
Yeah, 1.180.
Okay, so he takes the 1.180 and we're down to 1.31.
We have 130 thousandths to coil bind.
130 thousandths. So you can check the spring rate on the box, and we're going to put in some, what do we decide, 30,000 shims. We still have 100 thousandths to go.
Yeah, we're probably around 60,000 shim.
60,000 shim. So that's going to put us up around like 175-ish and 400 plus. That keeps everything from wanting to lift. It's real important when you've got turbo and supercharged motors, because the additional boost that's on the backside of the intake valve will make the thing want to float. It takes 10 psi. If you got 10 psi boost, it'll lift that that intake valve off 10 extra pounds. So
right.
Instead of being 130 on the seat, now you're 120 on the seat. And it's always the intake that goes to shit, because the intake valve is always heavier than the exhaust.
And it's trying to hold back the boost when the valve's closed.
Yep. So show them how you're going to put a shim in. If I can make this thing work. I'm going to turn this thing off. It's kind of zingy here.
So we have a wall of shims, all different kinds of boxes of shims. They come, 15 thou, 30 thou, 60 thou, thick shim.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if this one will fit on here or not. But for instance, we go like that. No. So
that's not the right way they're supposed to fit. They got to go in and fit snugly.
yeah, let's see this side up.
Either on the ID.
For instance, you would just stack up underneath the spring seat, and you essentially raise your installed height of the spring to get more spring pressure. So you can add, subtract, and different shims, different thicknesses, in order to get you to your correct spring pressures without going into coil bind.
All right, so here at High Tech Motorsport, we always argue about this stuff. We've run these as close to 60 thousandths. I'm gonna try that again. Hey, that worked pretty good.
I like 60 thou to coil bind is a good number.
Yeah, that settles the spring down, so you don't get a bunch of gyration. Comp Cams has a bunch of kind of cool. Oh, wrong way. There we go. Comp Cams have some really cool video of valve float with a spintron in slow motion type stuff, so you can see what happens. It just beats the crap out of the tip of the rocker arm.
Yep, if you're too far away from coil bind, you get weird spring harmonics going. I mean, yeah, if you can watch a video of a valve train in action, these springs get really out of shape really quick. And the closer you are to that 60 thou to coil bind, the more stable the spring is, the better off you are.
Yep. You got to just make sure that they're all installed at the same height. You got to make sure there's no, when you buy a used set of heads, sometimes you can get some dissimilar seat heights, and there's a bunch of other crap that can go on.
Absolutely. Even if you get a brand new set of heads out of the box or a used set, you always got to go through and check. Don't ever trust what the box says for the spring pressures and the stem length. You always got to go through and check them all. So.
Yeah, so we're going to put these all together. Now we're going to show you some of the port work that Bill did here on this set of cylinders. Now these heads, as I've said in my other video, really don't need they don't need port work. They'll make almost 700 on their own. But since this guy, we're going to run a 2.3 Edelbrock screw charger on top, we're looking to make somewhere in the 800 plus on pump gas. So I'm going to try to put this in I'm getting used to this stick thing. Bill's going to grab a light. I'm going to show you the port that's not cut up. Oh, that was crazy. Show you the port that's not cut up. Now this is the intake side. You can see inside.
Let it drop it down, angle it up a little bit.
Angle it up a little bit. Oh, wrong way. There we go. So, yeah, try the backside maybe. Oh, that's better. All right, so you can see all the kind of casting flaws and a bunch of crap all over the place. So it's not that difficult to do. You just make sure you don't punch through into open air, which you can do. And you gotta be real careful in the short turn, because the air wants to go supersonic and detach when you get too much volume. That's the problem with the LS1, LS2 Cathedral port. They fixed that problem with this. but you can see the bottom still comes up and then goes down. It's much more pronounced in the cathedral ports, and we didn't understand that for the first couple of years we were doing it. Was driving us all crazy, but here we go. So we'll switch sides. So what he did for getting the intake, bottom one, okay. Here. So you can see how he's got it all cranked up. He used a cutter on the end of a great big grinder, and then he used what, 120 grit, 80 grit?
There's 60 grit on the finish on those things. 60 grit. There's still a little bit of work to do to get to these, but
you don't want to make them mirror smooth. It turns out there's surface tension with air, just like any other fluid. So you don't want to end up making them smooth like that. That's why we finish up with 120 grit or whatever we've got. It gives you a nice smooth surface. But
so yeah, you can see the difference between.
Yeah, there's the casting on that one, right there. Let's see if we can make this thing go. Beep. There we go. So that's the intake on one that's not ported up. You can see there's some room to run, especially right around here, around the guide. You don't want to get rid of that vein right there because the air moves around that. But there's a lot of extra edge. Remember, air is just a fluid. It's a very light fluid, but it doesn't like to change size or direction. Every time you do that, you restrict flow. I'm sure there's some engineer out there that's got some kind of crazy thing. So that's one that he's got done. You can see how he's worked around the guide and then cleaned up everything around it. You can do this at home. Get yourself a headset and a couple of joints. No, kid, don't do that. Maybe a cocktail or two, and just start grinding away and try to keep everything. Get a cup that's can't let little slivers in. Aluminum is much easier to work with than cast iron. Bill loves cast iron.
No, despise cast iron.
Despise cast iron. All right,
it's harder than lungs.
Yep. So you can just put a set of gloves on. You will vibrate your hands, but we don't even do this on our NA motors. But considering we're trying to give this guy a maximum effort, we did this. It's all new Manley valves, 5-angle intake, 3-angle exhaust, a few other goodies, that type of stuff. But we're going to put this all together. We're going to cut another video here when Bill decides he wants to do this with his 415 cubic inch. Just give you a little teaser here with this thing. We got, whoop, wrong way. And going, I'll get a hang of this yet. This is an LS3 415 cubic inch. I think it's 407 bore?
407 bore, yep, 4-inch stroke.
Yeah, a 4-inch stroke. That keeps the, this is H-beam rods, ARP 2000s, low compression, 9 1/4 to 1, I think is what's going to end up at. Zero decked, square decked, ready to rock and roll stuff. This, you can put more boost to that lower compression with all the forged stuff. Bill's already spent hours going through and cutting the rings and everything else on this and making sure the stroker clearance is right. You got to do that, assemble it, and then you want to flip it over. We'll show them the stroker clearance while you got everybody as a.
It's got the windage trays.
Oh, windage trays on, all right.
So we're not going to see much, I don't think, here.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a windage tray that's still going to get cut up right here. It's real close. It doesn't hit, but we're just not crazy about having 4,000s in case something grows a little bit.
Yeah, fully studded.
Yeah, all ARP stuff throughout. Just they're pretty much the only game in town. I know there's some other guys trying to break into it, but quality, quality, quality. Build it once, double check everything. We're 2.5 on the mains, 2 on the rods.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
4.5 thou piston the wall clearance.
Okay.
Everything's super heavy.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff is the same. These blocks all come with one-time use torque to yield bolts, but the ARP you can use over and over again. At least I've used them 3 times and stuff. Yeah. It's got the side bolts right there for the registers. They're all replaced. All the torque specs come right with the, God darn it, I gotta get, All the torque spec comes with this stuff, so just follow what they tell you to do and you'll be fine. Always buy good quality parts. Don't try to cheap out. We got a young guy in the back that bought one of our long blocks and a 4.6 Ford and then bought a used supercharger and the intercooler or aftercooler, what do they call that thing on that?
Heat exchanger.
Heat exchanger on a Kenny Bell. Somebody left it out in the garage. I'm trying to figure out the button, dude.
Yeah, it's not that hard. You'd suck at video games, Bart.
Oh, there's no doubt. I'm a product of the pinball generation.
Yeah, right.
And anyway, the heat exchanger was left out in the garage full of water, not coolant, and it cracked. And this guy bought it used and didn't pressure check it. Always check your pressure systems before you start a motor. It's got to hold water. It's got to hold coolant. He didn't do that, and he filled the whole motor up and hydrolocked the piss out of it, one of our perfectly good forged stroker motors. So that's the moral of that story. Make sure you're doing some safety checks first, because the guy selling you that supercharger is probably a lying piece of shit. That's why he's selling it. Well, you know, I'm just telling the truth. I mean, you know, every American thinks there's a quarter underneath that nickel someplace.
Yeah.
Not really the truth. Just buy good quality stuff once and be done with it. All right, I'm going to try to figure out how to turn this off without making the thing go crazy. We'll get back to you when we start assembling the cylinder heads on top here so you can see how an LS1 goes. You can see it's got, I got that to work the right way. Got the oil pump on it. Got the 4-post. This is a 58 tooth reluctor wheel on the back, and you got to use an 05 Corvette 3-bolt, because it's a 3-bolt cam setup on this one.
Yeah, we use the billet 3-bolt camcorder in this particular one.
Look at that, it's moving on its own. Jeez. Whoops!
It's trying to keep itself steady.
Is it?
From where you headed, yeah. It's
Okay.
trying to keep itself level, and then you got to drive it if you want to look somewhere else.
I think I'm going to turn the stick off though and just do it by hand. Oh, it's going to go right down to the bottom. Jeez. Anyway, I'm still working on trying to get the videos all made up. We've been behind the power curve. We got lots and lots of stuff to show you guys. And once again, they're all references, so just keep them in a little tab. If you got questions, call me and I'll put you on with Bill, since he's here like what, 2-3 hours a day?
Yeah, about.
Yeah.
Give or take.
Yeah, that's it. So we're going to sign off and have them go back to work and get this ready. We're going to be tossing this in the car, it looks like on Monday. And then we'll be setting up the fuel system and putting her on the dyno and breaking it in and making a buttload of power. Transmission, yeah, transmission guy thinks it's going to be strong enough for what we're doing. I think he's wrong. But all right, see you, YouTube.